Hey everyone, Mr. Sujano here, your source for gaming, tech, emulation, and open source news. Let's get started. Alright, to kick things off, we're talking about something that I'm having a hard time believing is real. I've got my serious doubts here, but some people are saying it's true. Anyways, Nintendo is reporting that people are buying Nintendo Switch games, opening them up and not finding a cartridge. Instead, they're finding some 3D printed stuff and some googly eyes. Now, in today's day and age, I hate to say it, but it's pretty easy to reshrink wrap something. I mean, the technology is out there. It's one of the many reasons I'm skeptical about an old retro game being marked as sealed in box, new sealed in box. There's not a lot of examples to compare to, and it's very hard to tell if something has been resealed. And I mean, we even see resealing in stuff like Pokemon cards. Anyways, here I'm assuming side by side with a Switch game and something that's been resealed and something that's brand new, you'll be able to spot the difference. But not a lot of people buy a whole bunch of Switch games at once that they can see one is a little bit different. Now, I'm assuming that's what could be happening here, but again, I could be wrong. And taking a look at the images, and it's very interesting that a lot of these images are sharing very similar characteristics. And I'm wondering if these games are coming from the same place or a similar place, or if it's just scattered across the world. I mean, here's what Green One says. This also happened to me a few weeks ago. Bought a Nintendo Switch copy of Red Dead Redemption from Walmart in store, completely sealed in wrap. Got home and discovered an empty box with weird dark strips inside the cartridge holder. I didn't even get a googly eye in my box. So I guess pro tip here, if you are buying Nintendo Switch games, just make sure there's a real cartridge on the inside. And you can do this by shining a light at the game box. Now, I checked this one out myself, and there are two different ways to do it. Actually, there's a few different ways. One of the easiest is just to put your phone underneath the box there with a flashlight and just shine it through, and yeah, you can see the game cartridge in there. Or you can do it from the side as well. If you try to shine it directly like this in here, it's a little bit difficult. So underneath or to the side, and you can easily see the game card on the inside. So if this is real and it's actually happening, I'm hoping the mystery gets solved soon and everything gets sorted out. I mean, if this is happening at a specific store, I can understand that getting solved pretty quickly. If this is happening somewhere else, for example, before it gets to the store, that becomes a bigger problem. And I'm guessing it's probably extremely difficult to bring this back to the store to try to get a refund. I mean, the customer service counter at Walmart would probably laugh seeing a googly eye and a piece of plastic in there, and someone saying that the game actually shipped to them like this and they wanted a new game. And continuing to talk about Nintendo, but going back a generation, kinda. Next up here, we're talking about Nintendo 3DS emulation with Mikage. Now, if you remember a while back, we talked about how NeoBrain was going to present at a conference. And the title of his presentation was 10 Years of Emulating the Nintendo 3DS, A Tale of Ninjas, Lemons, and Pandas. If you are curious about this one and wanted to watch it, like everything I talk about, link will be in the description below right at the bottom. NeoBrain's presentation here is about 55 minutes in length, and it is in English. And that is NeoBrain himself. He covers a lot of very interesting information. Additionally, NeoBrain talks a little bit about his story in the emulation scene and does provide an update about Mikage. And for those wondering where Mikage is, why they haven't seen it, well, based on this presentation, there's a number of reasons for that. Interestingly here, one of the big reasons is the end user, the vocal end user. For example, someone with an outdated device or an underpowered device, or possibly a combination of both. Basically, someone with a device that's struggling to run its own operating system. That person getting very angry at the developers for not optimizing the emulator enough to run games on their device. Which is, well, we see it quite a bit in the emulation scene, specifically the Android emulation scene. And that could dissuade developers from releasing emulators that they don't think are in a state enough that are going to generate few complaints. And another thing here is other developers causing issues in the emulation scene. For example, he quotes Pablo MK7 here, and for those who may be unaware, Pablo MK7 worked on Citra, and Pablo MK7 is currently working on Athahar. Anyways here, Pablo MK7 says in a tweet, download Citra source, change the name to something else, grab commits from forks of people who actually know what they are doing, implement 3 or 4 hacks that improve 3 games but break 10, claim your emulator is better, and profit. And I mean, NeoBrain kind of sums this up at the bottom here by saying developers watch these forks get credited for changes that they sometimes spent months or even years researching and implementing. And we have kind of seen that with stuff like Yuzu. For example, the development team were working on a whole bunch of things that hadn't been implemented yet, and someone took that source code, forked the emulator, and implemented those things and tried to take credit for it. Stuff that wasn't ready to be released yet because it was still buggy, and Yuzu was working on it. Anyways, that's a story for another day, but at the same time here, this does happen in the emulation scene, and it does discourage developers. Now, I could be wrong here and call me crazy, but I am certain that Mikage is real. We're going to have to wait and see on that one, and we may be waiting a little bit. We may be waiting a while. I don't know yet. But I think Mikage is real. I think NeoBrain is working on it, and I think NeoBrain is just waiting until it's in a state where he's comfortable releasing it to the public. I mean, I've talked to other developers who have tested out early versions of Mikage, and they say it's the real deal. So we'll have to wait and see on that one, but I do recommend checking this out, and let me know your thoughts about it in the comments below. And speaking about community stuff, next up here we're talking about KOF Studio. And this was a very confusing announcement that I'm still not certain I'm fully understanding. So here's a tweet from the newly formed KOF Studio, KOF 30th Anniversary Project Part 30. To coincide with the 30th anniversary of the King of Fighters, we are happy to announce the establishment of KOF Studio. KOF Studio will proudly carry on the 30-year legacy of SNK fighting games, while also bringing forth a new revolution. So when I first saw this announcement, I'm not going to lie here, I was excited about it. I was like, wow, you're focusing on the King of Fighters. Maybe we're going to see a new KOF game. I mean, City of the Wolves is coming out next year, and what would be more exciting is another King of Fighters game. Anyways, here it says revolutionize the legacy at the bottom. And the more I looked at this, the more confused I got. So taking a look at their website here for KOF Studio, and well, there's not a whole lot on it. It shows titles, so City of the Wolves, King of Fighters 15, Samurai Showdown, SNK Heroines, and King of Fighters 14. So this to me is not really telling me a whole lot. Oh, and they talk about Samurai Spirits Action RPG. But at the same time here, I mean, it's not talking about a new game that has been unannounced so far. It's not really talking about a whole lot. And it's not specific to King of Fighters. So I'm kind of wondering what's going on here. Maybe this is just a specific wing now of SNK dedicated to fighting games. Now, as a massive fighting game fan, I'm excited to possibly see what happens here if they are dedicating resources specifically to fighting games and trying to expand that part of their company. Well, that's a good thing here. But if this is just a branding of sorts, then I don't know what's going to happen. I'm very curious to see what comes of this, but let me know your thoughts and speculations about what might happen. And speaking about what might happen, next up we're talking about something that isn't going to happen anymore. And that's Andstation 3. It appears that development on Andstation 3 is stopping. Now, for those who may not be aware, I'm pretty sure we've talked about Andstation 3 in the past, but it's being marketed as the first PS3 emulator for Android, and that is a little bit misleading. Based on my understanding here, Andstation 3 does not natively run on Android. It's basically the Linux version of RPCS3 bundled with Termux and possibly a few other things to run on an ARM version of Linux. And that is it. So the person behind Andstation 3 is giving a few details as to why they're leaving the project, and I won't read these in full. They say here they don't have enough time to work on the project as they are in the last year of high school. They don't get any support from the project anyways, neither money or even respect from the community. And the project is close to impossible to be compiled to Android natively because of third-party dependencies and more. Now, the person behind Andstation 3 is also citing some drama with the RPCS3 team and some other stuff as well. And I can kind of understand the drama if it is there between RPCS3, and that is because Andstation 3 is not its own thing. It's basically a bundling of RPCS3. And calling it the first PS3 emulator on Android is probably not the right way to go about it. It's not even natively running on Android. Now, I could be wrong here, and this is my own personal opinion, so if I am wrong, let me know in the comments below, and I don't have any issue changing my viewpoint when presented with correct information. Anyways, here I'm assuming that the downfall of Andstation 3 was because of a number of big things. The biggest one being this marketed as the first PS3 emulator on Android, which it's absolutely not. It's a rebundling of RPCS3, and I think that's how this should have been marketed as, just an RPCS3 Termux kind of bundle to allow it to run on Android devices. And secondly here, and this is a big one, and again, I could be wrong about this one, but it's possibly because of the lack of experience and maturity from the person behind the project, and also possibly from others in the community. Again, I could be wrong. Anyways, the developer says the whole idea for the project in the first place was to be an experimental project and not an actual emulator. My idea was to run RPCS3 on FX, and I did it. It just wasn't a good idea. And you can fork the emulator if you want. It's open source. So maybe we'll see Andstation 3 continue on under a different name or something. But I guess feel free to discuss, and please keep this civil. And speaking about civil, well, kind of. There's a very huge star behind that one, and I'm not going to open that can of worms. Anyways, next up, we're talking about the European Commission. And it appears that the European Commission has decided that USB-C is the official common standard for charging electronic devices. And I think that is pretty awesome. So they say here under the common charging solution that this applies to mobile phones, tablets, digital cameras, headphones, headsets, portable speakers, handheld video game consoles, e-readers, earbuds, keyboards, mice, and portable navigation systems as of December 28th, 2024. So for all of these devices, USB-C will be the common port, and they must work on any USB-C charger, which will eliminate a whole bunch of waste here and also eliminate a bunch of stress and confusion. I mean, if this was implemented in Canada, I'd be able to get rid of a whole bunch of different cables that I don't need. Instead, I've got a whole bundle of them in a box that sometimes I need to pull out one, and it's just annoying. Anyways, having USB-C for all of these devices is fantastic, and having one set charger that will work with all of them is amazing. Heck, we've got a lot of knockoffs and very questionable chargers in the past bundled with some of these devices. I mean, you can disagree with me on that one, but I've received a bunch of different devices over the years with a bunch of different adapters. Some of them I would not trust to be plugged into my phone or something like that. And don't even get me started on some of the retro gaming handhelds and issues with USB-C cables and chargers and all of that. I'm very curious to hear what you have to say about this and your opinions on the matter. In my opinion, aside from the whole waste aspect and the reduced amount of waste, I think the big things here are convenience as well as safety. I mean, having one really good USB-C charger or a bunch of different ones that are certified and ready to go and will work with everything will be very convenient. So I guess convenience is the winner here. Next up here, we're talking about a pretty cool discovery for the Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask on the N64. If you're a fan of this game, you may be interested or excited to know that there were voice commands that were initially planned to be used with this game. Skawo has a brand new video here where they demonstrated what those voice commands were, and they discovered them. Again, like everything I talk about, link is in the description below here, and they say at the beginning of the video, as you may know, the N64 has a microphone accessory, the VRS, which stands for Subscribe to Mr. Sujano, or the Voice Recognition System. And I'm assuming there are a number of people who didn't know that there was a microphone accessory for the N64. But anyways, they say that all versions of Majora's Mask have hidden support for it, which can be easily re-enabled. So this is something that was already on the game cartridge and not something that has to be really modded in per se. And there are commands like say cheese, which will take a picture with the pictograph. On top of that, it can be used to get milk from cows, wake up Deku Scrubs, and even more. It is very interesting overall. It can be used to speed up Epona. This is crazy and something I wish they implemented in the game. I mean, if the code is already there, why didn't they just enable it? There are 5 voice commands in total. They're all in Japanese, and they can be enabled just by enabling a function. I think this is super cool and a very fun fact about the game. Next up, we're talking about a very interesting rumor about Intel and their new video cards. Now, we've talked about the recent B580 and upcoming B570, 2 video cards where their price to performance ratio seems to be in a very attractive spot. Anyways, there's a brand new rumor that Intel will be releasing a more powerful version in 2025. Now, if you can get your hands on one, the B580 has 12 gigs of DDR6 memory, the upcoming B570 has 10 gigs of memory, and the rumored one here will have 24 gigs of memory, doubling what the B580 has, and it's geared towards creators. Now, I would say take this rumor with a big grain of salt. I mean, I could see 16 gigs well before 24. That's a huge jump. But maybe I'm wrong, maybe it will come out with 24 gigs here, and by saying just 2025, that's not really saying a whole lot. I mean, Intel could unveil the next generation of these things in 2025 as well. I mean, every year, most of these companies come out with new video cards. So I'm assuming that at some point in 2025, we will hear more information about whatever the new model of these cards is going to be. And who knows, maybe they will have more RAM. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm hoping here that Intel just stays in the real nice price to performance ratio pocket. I mean, it seems they've hit a home run with the B580, and it seems to have been very well reviewed across the board. I'm assuming the B570 will be in the same boat here, and having open source drivers also helps. But I'm hoping here, I'm saying hoping a lot, I'm hoping that they just don't try to push the limits and increase the price to where they're competing against big GPUs and they may not be as attractive in comparison. I mean, I could be wrong, but I think Intel's sweet spot here is trying to maximize performance while maintaining affordability. It's a very good place to be in because GPUs can get very expensive. And last up here, we're talking about 8BitDo or 8BitDo. And 8BitDo has just released a couple of new colors for their Ultimate 2C wireless controller. One of them is here called Brownie, and the other one is called Blueberry. And these are available right now for $26.99 on their website. Now, personally, I still think the Pro 2 is a much better controller, but that's just me. Anyways, here, if you do like this form factor, it is available on Amazon as well, and Acnes actually has it covered. Now, if you wanted discounts on these controllers, Acnes doesn't currently have them posted, but they do have a Discord, and sometimes in their Discord, they have discounts and they give away stuff. They sell a lot of 8BitDo stuff, and at the same time here, if you're trying to find the best deal, Acnes is usually the one I recommend. Now, it's worth pointing out that this is not a paid advertisement. I'm speaking from my own experience. When I order 8BitDo stuff, I usually go through Acnes because their prices are consistent, they're reasonable, and on top of that, they sell more than just 8BitDo stuff. So you can get Gillikit joysticks, for example. Anyways, their Discord does have discounts on it from time to time. They do have giveaways from time to time, and I'll leave a link to their Discord in the comments below or the description below. Just don't go in there saying that Mr. Sujano promised you a discount or anything. I'm not partnered with them for this at all. But anyways, that is all I've got for you in this one. Straight to the point, all stuff and no fluff. We talked about a bunch today. Feel free to discuss anything we talked about in the comments below. If you like this video, leave a like. If you didn't like this video, leave a like. Hit that subscribe button, check out my other videos. Don't tempt fate, save your state.